AG, this is
IJ.
IJ, and CB got a job, so he's not gonna be around for a bit.
I got a job too, but it doesn't, but while it means that I go to bed earlier than 3 a.m. that I used to, because it was insane, I work during the day, so I can be up at night, except for when I need to sleep.
So,
we have new episodes.
Yeah.
New Sanji episodes.
So,
well, we have like 2 Sanji episodes and like 3 Krieg episodes.
So I'm gonna quickly say right off the bat exactly what happens in these 5 episodes, because we were talking about this before it started.
Mm-hmm.
Sanji has a backstory. Pearl gets taken out in, again, the dumbest way possible, because of course he's not down and out. Gig gets taken out because Krieg doesn't like him anymore, so he's just gonna kill him off. Luffy then takes out Krieg, and then Sanji joins the crew. That is literally what happens in the episode.
Actually, yeah.
The fact that I can sum all that up means that there's a lot of filler. And most of it is them just sitting around as padding. That's what I meant.
It's not quite filler, because this has story implications because Sanji joins the crew.
Yeah, but the weird thing is that we could basically just sum up everything really quickly.
Good night, everybody!
Also, correction, like I said, Pearl isn't down and out, but the fact that he shows off his true nature and is immediately taken out, just like,
twice!
Why?
Twice, he does. Oh, and before we keep going, I wanted to get back to you and the viewers what I thought of episode 24, because I rewatched it. Because I'm going to do this with every possible platinum. And that means I'm going to have to watch another episode in the set. But I already know what it's going to be. I'm just rewatching it for just in case I lost my mind the first time I was watching it. But I have to give episode 24 a gold. Because it was
giving it your platinum?
No. Because it was comparable to the last episode of this set. And either both of them are platinum, or none of them are platinum. And I can't do that with episodes so close together.
Yeah,
by virtue of one being platinum, it means it overshadowed the one that came before.
So,
although the fight with Zoro was really good, I was combing through it for anything I can find. I even was astounded by how they cut around the commercials. That's how good the episode was.
I would say, though, that this moment had so much more impact than the manga version. And
with the fight with Zoro, or
yeah, the fight with Zoro.
Oh, okay. So
it was because a mixture between the drawn-out nature of the fight, just the movement and the music. It's so much more better than the manga version.
Also,
but then we get to episode 20, episode 30. We are skipping right to it because I want to talk about it first.
Yeah.
Sanji,
we're talking about it a bit.
I'm talking about this section because it has nothing to do with the 5. It can be talked about separately.
Yeah, if you cut out like everything up to episode 20, if you go directly from episode 26, the end of 26, to episode 29, you're not missing a lot. Like, there are some pretty neat scenes. They're neat, they're not cool.
Actually, do you know what? Let's just go about it in order.
Okay.
What was your favorite part from... We have to actually talk about 26, now that I think about it.
Because we can't talk about 30 without
let's actually just talk... Instead of actually talking about what happens in the episode, let's only talk about the backstory flashback, because that honestly makes it a gold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That part makes it a gold.
It was a gold
Everything else is so
you don't
dumb.
like One Piece if you don't think that this episode was a gold, or you really don't like Sanji. But I will say this, not getting into Sanji's abilities, which as of right now we don't know about. Mm-hmm. Sanji and Zeff should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to keep just this episode and this arc in mind, because we learn a lot about Sanji through the years. Like, we're gonna keep learning things that are suspicious, some of them make sense, some of them are a bit... You can light your leg on fire without also catching fire to your pants or your nice satin suit that you are wearing.
So
how's that?
Sanji's backstory starts with him being on a cruise liner of sorts.
And he's a cook. He's like a busboy. He's the tour boy.
We later find out that he actually stowed away on the ship and he's paying off a lot of
but we don't
stuff.
learn on that.
But we have no idea about this at this point.
As of right now, he was
not really that important at this
point. Whether or not he stowed on the ship is not important to what happens next.
So Zeff's pirate crew, who you can actually tell is basically just made out of they're called the cooking pirates. So I guess both of the things that I said last week are wrong. Pearl actually does have a little bit of stuff, but it's so minor I literally forgot about it. I forgot about Pearl until I started watching these episodes. That's how little he impacts the story.
And while he does have a neat design, you really don't stay up at night thinking Pearl is such an awesome character. I can't watch the rest of the show without really having to.
The only reason why I actually recognize Pearl's character design is because the Pirate Warrior series uses him as a basic enemy design.
You were talking about that,
and it's
after I watched the episode.
But here's the funny thing: they use a lot of the character models from the Krieg pirates in that game for the minor. Because
they're so generic looking.
Yeah,
you can tell it's early One Piece by how an early era of shonen manga itself, because shonen manga really started with it had always existed like sports manga and action manga, but Dragon Ball was really what kicked it off into what we know as Shonen Jump now, with Dragon Ball and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And One Piece really, the beginning of One Piece, some of the characters are generic because Oda is new. He's new to making the series. He's trying to get his footing, and he's just trying to figure out where he wants to go with the series, because he only planned the series to be 5 years. And he planned out the major beats. I think he knew what he wanted to do with Sanji from this point. I think he said once that
every single island that they were going to go to, they were going to pick up a new guy. And you see it every single step of the way, where it's he meets Zoro, he gets Nami, they pick it up, they go to Sturt Village, they pick up Usopp, they go to the Barate, they pick up Sanji. But at that moment, he wanted to do a bit of Nami's backstory, so technically...
Nami was the character that picked up from the part.
Yeah.
And they almost picked up someone...
I thought that was a hair.
I would have gotten rid of it. But they almost pick up someone from Alabasta,
every
Drum
single
Island.
Arc, they pick up a new guy. Every single arc. Afterwards. They were gonna pick up, 2, maybe 3 people over the course of
he planned
just
for Chopper,
Alabasta.
And he planned for Frankie. He didn't plan for Robin.
And he didn't plan for Brooke.
No, he planned for Brooke. I just think he didn't plan exactly what he wanted Brooke's design to be. Because you saw hints of the musician all the way from entering the Grand Line.
Yeah.
Which I will hold to. That's a really cool thing once you know what's going on in that scene. But back to the backstory, Sanji, when he was little, 5, 6?
I want to say he's about 8.
I'd say 6.
Because this was 10 years ago, and he's an adult now.
Was it 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he was 8 then. You're probably right. And he was a bit of a brat, but...
There's a really great line in which comes back to bite him later, which is, the sea is an unpredictable place, so it's best not to waste food. That is directly told to him, and he goes, yeah, but we've thrown out food that looks less rotten than that, as he's just scooping it into a container. And I'm like, oh, this was included just so it could bite him later, doesn't it?
And the cook pirates with Zeff at their helm attack in a storm. I think they clearly intended to use the storm as cover from any nearby marines. Because if there's a cruise liner, they're probably on a direct trade route that ships pass through.
So while Sanji is actually standing up to the kicks that Zeff is putting out, mostly because we know what his childhood was like, and he was taking a lot more than that.
Yeah, like poor, but he probably hasn't felt like a beating this bad in some time.
Yeah, but he can actually stand up to a lot.
Has the hallmarks of like someone who is not that fond of people. So let's just say that.
So a massive wave hits both of the boats. They get destroyed, and Sanji wakes up on a deserted mushroom-shaped island.
It's a muffin. It's not mushroom-shaped. It's Muffin Island.
Is it really called Muffin Island?
No, but it should be, because it looks like a muffin. It's a Muffin Island.
Yeah, so you have...
It's brand flavor, too, to just edge in, like, the disappointment. Because, it's, tapered off at the end, and, the ends are sheer, so there's no way that Sanji and Zeff are going to be able to get down.
He said that if you were to go... Because Sanji and Zeff are the only two people left on the island.
After
both of the crews are just completely dead.
Because a typhoon smashed their two ships in together. Yeah. Everyone else on the island drowned.
So, Zeff basically goes, here's your share of food that I found.
And it's
I'm keeping this share. Bag. And it's a bag that's 4 times the size. And he goes...
And it's all
where he goes, I'm a bigger person. I need more food than you. If you're good enough, because we're both cooks, you can figure out how to make the food last. Mm-hmm. Cuts to an indeterminate number of days, because Sanji literally ran out of chalk.
Well...
And then we have another cut into the future after we see that he ran out of chalk.
Mm-hmm. Because what happened is that at some point, he was tallying them normally, like slash, 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 and then the cross slash. And then you see as it drags on, it's it's cutting through, 10 or so. It's cutting through 6. There's tons with only, the tally tick marks. And I'm like, this kid.
I did not even bother to count because I knew that it probably is an indeterminate amount of time.
And probably Sanji wasn't counting all the days towards the end.
Because he was
his last bit of food is this piece of bread that's just pocked with mold, and then he drops it in the ocean, just trying to think about the food he
spends another 2 or 3 days without food. He's all tired, beleaguered, and really thin.
This kid's a skeleton.
And he gets up and he looks over to Zeff, who's been sitting in the exact same spot for days.
Because he told him not to move or to call him unless there was a ship. Because it would waste energy.
And so Sanji picks up the knife that he apparently still had on him.
That he tried to use against Zeff on the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know how that knife got there.
He goes up to Zeff and he goes, I just want a little bit of your food. Because it looks like that he hasn't even, taken anything out of the bag. Stabs the bag, and it was full of all of his money. And at that moment, you realize...
That sends the arrow through the heart. Zeff probably left the knife there himself. Because how did Sanji keep hold of it when he was conscious?
There is, oddly enough, an actual moral quandary that says, if you and someone that you love are about to die, would you kill them so you could starve alone, or would you kill yourself so you don't have to see them starve?
You know what my answer would be to that question.
Well, you would just kill yourself anyway, so. So.
It's like you can't throw more moral quandaries at me like that, because I already know the answer to that.
And
you should always have an apocalypse.
And Sanji asks, "What have you been eating this whole time?" As he looks down and sees that Zeff's leg is gone. For context, they when I first watched this in the 4Kids dub, they left in the scene of him not having a leg, and the way that they said it made you think he cut his own leg off to eat it,
which is kind of what's. I think that's the manga too.
They say it that way in the manga too, but not in the anime. In the anime,
it's so weird.
You clearly see him actually cut his leg off with an anchor because his leg got stuck underwater, which was not in the manga.
but it's so much darker. It's like the fox and the bear trap. It's just like the fox's leg is just. I love foxes. And I really don't like this Hollywood. But it's it looks that the fox's leg is in a trap, and the fox will eat its will gnaw its own leg off to preserve its own life. And Zeff is.
The music starts swelling up as Zeff says, "I cared about you and saved you because we had the same stupid dream." And I honestly, at that moment, would have given it a platinum, but I'm not. The reason why I'm not giving this a platinum is because a better scene comes up later on in these series of episodes.
The transitions in and out of the flashback are kind of long.
Yeah. So, it feels weird to give such a good episode,
and only half of the
black
episode.
mark of Sanji just being beaten up by Pearl with his clacking noise,
the monkey symbol,
and him just oh, I'm gonna take all the hits so the backstory has meaning, and it's dang it! I was this would have been a great episode.
And as we said, platinums are by virtue of being platinum. They're harder to rate because the better they are, the more the black marks stick out in the episode and the episodes around them.
Do you remember what Luffy says at the beginning of episode 27?
I think it's that Luffy is trying to get Gin. I completely forget. I was more concentrated. I did on Sanji.
Yeah.
Sanji was right there and I didn't care about it.
The end of episode 26 is to stop the fire that is raging on the fin of the ship. Luffy literally just breaks that section off.
He actually has a habit of destroying ships.
Using Gum Gum Battle Axe, which, as we find out with almost every other arc afterwards, is very great for destroying buildings.
He uses it so much to destroy buildings and ships.
Yeah.
We're gonna see in a future arc that even the Mary is not safe from Luffy's carelessness. Has the Sunny taken damage from Luffy yet?
So
I think it has.
Yeah. So remember, he ripped the mast off.
But that was the Mary, though.
Yeah.
But not
he ripped the top of the. So Gin is ordered to take out Sanji. So he pulls out these tonfas with Tesla balls on them. It's what are you doing? It's if they had an electric current running through them, then I would understand. Why do you just have this ball of
Maybe it's for his ball and chain prisoner motif.
Maybe.
That's the only reason I can think of it. And it's not really a reason.
Yeah.
As we said,
as it turns out, he's not just any. He's not just any person on the ship.
He was a demon.
He is the demon Jin. His name is the Demon Jin, chief commander of his military.
Which is why he was on the ship.
Yeah. He was on the main ship, and he was, quote, the most loyal person. Turns out he can't kill Sanji because he values him because he
fed. Yeah, because he was the only one who was nice to him.
Yeah. And so Don Krieg goes, this is annoying, and he pulls out his
MH5.
Yeah, he pulls out his one of his pauldrons, and it turns into not only a Gatling gun that shoots out metal stakes. Still don't know why he didn't use it against the vampires. He probably should have.
Mm-hmm.
But,
okay. It would not surprise me if he was actually a vampire, and that's why his hat is so big.
But also loaded into it is a chemical known as MH5, which
it seems like
it is quote the deadliest poison in the East Blue. The deadliest poison in the East Blue.
Is there other poisons in the East Blue?
We don't see another person using poison as a method to take someone out until post-time skip. That's weird, isn't it?
No, which one?
Magellan is Venom. Technically, it's more...
I know that there's a difference, but not really.
Magellan is made out of Venom, though, so it's hard to say that he's utilizing poison as a weapon.
And Sanji's heart grows a bit because sympathy is not something that he's used to.
Yeah. But there is a good moment of this episode that saves it. As he is about to use the poison, and everyone is and all of his crewmates are putting on gas masks, and the chefs are either running to the other side of the ship or just diving into the water. Don Krieg says the phrase, "might makes right." And that kind of sums up his entire character, doesn't it? As long as he is the strongest, he cannot be wrong.
Are we also going to talk about the tidbit that Flash gave us about the wine?
Oh, I
another German reference in this episode to add to all the other ones.
No. So way back, I forgot to bring this up, but thankfully our editor Flash, he
kindly reminded us of this obscure fact, which is really interesting.
Full Body actually
way back when he was
a German wine that apparently Flash actually knows of, and he knows that it's not that popular. So the idea is that maybe he's trying to find some really obscure wine, have them either send it to them or buy it straight out, in which going like, hey, I knew exactly where this was. And it's like, but like, even people that knows that wine, I was like, why are you even buying this? There's so much better wines.
I think it was just to be pretentious.
Yeah.
And like look
Flash also thinks it's probably just to be pretentious.
Yeah, but that's also another German thing to add on to the tally board surrounding the Baratier.
Yeah. After a reused running animation from Luffy, he tries to stop him.
We're gonna see a lot of that.
And Luffy, using actually quick thinking for once, grabs two gas masks off of crew members nearby, throws them over to Gin and Sanji,
and he goes, about to grab his own.
Oh, this is bad. As the explosion goes off, and it's like...
Gastina would be so proud. Like, because it's actually devastating. Because we see the effects it has on someone. There's actually kind of gas it reminds me of. It's... What's the name of it? I completely forgot what the name of it was. But back, I don't know what year this was, but in Bhopal, India, there was a gas leak. And this kind of gas, which I completely forget about, it was made in Korea in the pesticide 7. Like, the effects that this has on Gin's body looks like it's dehydrating him out. And it looks like it's having a similar effect on it.
Yeah, maybe.
Which would make sense because this is obviously a chemical... It's obviously a chemical compound that Krieg has made or bought. He's probably bought it. From the New World, probably.
So, we get to episode 28, in which, as it turns out, Luffy finds a mask on the ground and he puts it on. The only reason why he finds a mask is because Jin threw him the mask that was over there. And saved him, yeah. And so the gas clears. And Jin has the mask like pressed against Sanji's face to save him. As Sanji leaves the battlefield to get Gin some medical attention. But it is really interesting that Luffy goes like, "Hey, I'm gonna kick his butt for you. Don't worry about this." And it's like, "Oh, okay." But here's an interesting thing.
A bit of a barbarian.
I didn't take that many notes on this episode. And I think the reason why is because I literally can't remember anything in this episode. I watched it a few hours ago and I can't remember a lot that happens in this episode.
I made jokes about future stuff that happens in the future.
And you know why? Honestly, this is one of the best edits that 4Kids did. They took so much out of this arc. That was not important.
Yeah.
I was like, at first I was a little upset. I was like, why did 4Kids remove so much from this arc? I remember so much about it. And then
you see it and you're like...
They left only the good parts of the arc. What do you know? 4Kids actually did something good in their editing.
Because they tried, but One Piece was not a property they should have been accidentally handled.
Yeah, honestly, if they were just given... they were given Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and Ultimate Muscle. If they were just working on those three, people would just like laugh off and like, okay, that's kind of kind of silly.
Beyblade, didn't they? Or was
they had Beyblade later, but it was because of the success of One Piece, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Ultimate Muscle not so much. People forget that Kirby was an anime.
I don't.
Fighting Foodons was pretty
I don't
pretty
remember
good.
That. Yeah, so I took a note that reads, and here we see the mighty monkey hugging a mascot for affection because the steel porcupine won't hug him.
Oh, right.
When Luffy was hugging
Krieg basically pulls out his shield and he starts like shooting
and it's got like a
into
spike.
Him as it's just like slamming into him. And then he keeps running forward and he goes,
and those are probably
my cape was his maybe not actually. Because it doesn't look like it's affecting him that much as
poison. He was in barbarian mode.
He's been poisoned before, and it's taken a faster effect on him because his blood is always pumping really fast.
Mm-hmm. And his metabolism is always turning over really quickly.
So, Krieg goes, "Ha! My cape is made out of spikes," and he just punches through it. It's like, great.
And Krieg just won't stay down.
He has this super awesome pulling the stakes like out of his body, like.
And then you realize that Luffy's not even tired yet. It's probably the adrenaline coursing through him. But Zeff kind of like comes to an admiration of Luffy. Like even if he hasn't officially let him off the hook yet, it's clear that Zeff doesn't want Luffy on his ship anymore.
Yeah. Don Krieg then takes his pauldron, shoves them together, and makes a spear out of it, which causes explosions when it touches something. Mm-hmm. Still not sure how all of his technology works, but you know.
It's not the craziest thing that we'll see in the show that we get no explanation for. Like, we still don't know quite what makes devil fruits reincarnate. We just know that it does.
Luffy goes down for the count like 3 times, but keeps getting back up because, you know, classic shonen protagonist, he should be dead by now. Never. And as Krieg yells out, "I am the strongest man," as his spear breaks. Mm-hmm. And then Luffy goes, "All I did was punch it about like 5 times. Prepare yourself." And it's like, oh, he's gonna just murder this guy. So episode 29, they have a fist fight. His armor breaks off. Yeah. That's mostly about it.
I wrote my first note on here's looking forward to not seeing Krieg again. Yeah. Because I realized that this was probably it. And I was hoping.
No.
That was probably
You see him a few other times. His armor shatters like it's made out of glass. It's got like a weird smashing sound. And then he uses his special net technique.
Mm-hmm. Because
as he's pulling
Luffy
him
has
into
a devil fruit, and so he's gonna try and drown Luffy to win the war.
You see, like, everyone, like, all of his, like, crew going, "Yeah, Krieg, get him!" And then you realize, how high up were they? You know, like, because they're, like, up the top of the screen.
Sean, it's that, time dilation and spatial relation doesn't exist in shonen anime.
What you're saying is that time is warped and space is bendable, right?
Exactly. Also,
Luffy uses
we have it's a trap from Sanji.
Yeah, that was pretty.
It's a trap.
Him just like exploding everything around them so the net technique would go off. He uses them Gum giant gavel or hammer depending on which translation you look at. Because if I remember correctly, the manga has it as hammer, while this uses it gavel. Mm-hmm. And he uses it a few other times in the series, but he rarely ever uses it besides this point. It's so memorable just seeing him like spin around as his legs are like all like twisted up, and then just slamming him into the ground and him just being knocked out for minutes. at a time, and it's like, ow. And then it's like, oh, it's over. Oh wait, he still has the net on, and he's just sinking, and it's like...
And so Zeff or orders Sanji to go after him, reminding him that devil fruit uselessers can't swim.
And Sanji reaches him and yells at him underwater, "You'll be safe." And it's like, what are you doing, Sanji?
And so at least we know that at this point, Sanji doesn't have a devil fruit.
Yeah. As Sanji is, like, nearing death from, like, you know, yelling underwater and taking all that, like, water into his lungs.
Puffing H2O.
Yeah. He, Sanji averts death by going, a sea of fish, a school of fish, I must see the all blue. And he just, like, continues swimming. And then when he gets up, Luffy just straight up just falls asleep.
Yeah.
Because there were only 3 states to Luffy: being an idiot, eating, or sleeping. And usually he's fighting someone in one of those 3 states.
If not all 3 of them.
There actually was a moment in which he fought someone asleep, which
with
was
a piece of meat in his mouth. So he was in like 3 of the states all at once.
It's like a 3-part Venn diagram.
And it seems that
Don Krieg, while he's knocked out, tries to get back up as Gin just like socks him in the stomach, going, "I think we're out of here, guys. Bye, goodbye, everyone."
Gin's shirt is pretty nice with the flames on. Like,
Jin looks like
he should be
like a middle-aged dad with all that, without his headband and jacket on. He looks like
if I have to turn this crew around, I will.
And so he piles like all 100 of them onto the small little boat.
Dinky rowboat, like
going, "Goodbye, everyone. We will probably get caught." Yeah, it's a schooner that they use for grocery shopping. And Gin makes a very adamant statement to tell Luffy, "Hey, tell him I'll see you on the Grand Line." As he then tells Sanji, "I'm probably not going to be alive for like the next few hours, so I'm just letting you know now. Bye." As he just sails off with all the crew, as we never see them again. No, honestly, we never see like the rest of this crew ever again. I think we see
Krieg in jail
once or twice in jail, but that's it.
Like we don't in a flashback or like a cover.
And I could be made wrong in the very next few episodes.
Which is fine, but I wouldn't be happy never seeing these guys again. They're one of the few One Piece characters where
you can see why Oda doesn't bring these guys back. You know.
Because they're generic. And
they're really generic in Jin's day.
And they didn't... Jim was the only good thing about this crew.
Yeah.
Like, he was...
Jim.
Son, have I ever told you about the time I fought the Dread Pirate Luffy and lived...
So, episode 20.
Because we're skipping the Nami scene. We're gonna
get back to that.
Yeah.
So Luffy wakes up and he goes, "Where's the guys?" And they're like, "Oh, they went off." "Oh. So do you want to be part of my crew?" "Nah. I really want to be here." He goes, "Okay, I give up though." As it shows Luffy kind of like sulking, he's like, "Okay, I give up though." Cuts back over to Sanji as he's being strangled by Luffy's arm, going, "Your arm hasn't."
Yeah, I have the Luffy tries to strangle his crewmates into submission.
Yeah. As then they have dinner. After Sanji tells him the legend of All Blue.
And he's really happy about it. And Zeff looks at him as if this is the first time he's seen Sanji genuinely smile.
This is the first time we see him genuinely happy, is when he's talking about All Blue.
And he's not going to be this happy for a while, actually.
So the chefs get everything set up and ready to eat because, you know what? It's been a long day. How about we all just relax?
Yeah, because they're the cooks who fight. I mean, float as bystanders in the ocean.
Yeah, and so they all start eating. They didn't save a room for Luffy or Sanji.
No, they didn't.
So they have to sit in the corner.
Where they belong.
As Patty comes up and then spits out his soup going, "This is terrible."
and like everybody else copies him.
Yeah, and everybody starts
copying.
copying.
Except for Zeff, who still eats the food, but
they all finish their bowls before they say it's disgusting. That is a very clear thing that they make sure that you know. As Luffy just sitting there, like, shoving food into his mouth, going, oh, this is really interesting. But you can really tell that the crew is fake coughing it, where they're like, tea. And I was like, what are you doing? Actually, just spit the food out.
Probably because the food
Maybe
is
they've
so
already
good.
swallowed it, and so they're like, tea. Because I don't have anything in my mouth that's
because I reflex swallowed the food because it was so good,
and so Zeff basically, after finishing his bowl, drops the plate on the ground, which everyone else does, showing that all their plates are empty too, saying that he should just leave, as Sanji just goes out of the room in a huff to smoke.
But he can't get the light to go. So
and as he's leaning against the door, he hears Zeff talk to Luffy of like, "Hey, you should really take him with you." Like,
and Lou,
this is the best we can do of telling him he's not wanted and should leave, because his food's good and he's a good waiter and a good chef.
But he's a good man.
But he has dreams and he wants to go with him and he wants to go with you, but his commitments are too hard here.
Oh, I also wrote that Luffy tries to swallow the soup and the ladle in which it comes in. It's so good.
You're just all watching him and he goes, it's just like almost like eats the entire ladle. And it's like, what are you doing?
He's hungry. He needs to be fed. I'm
probably going to just have Flash just like pop up the image of Luffy just like with the thing just in his mouth, and it's like, what? So then we have honestly the weirdest scene completely out of context.
The weirdest transition ever.
A panda shark comes up with a guy in his mouth and he slams into Sanji, breaking part of the wall.
Was that what it was? It was a panda.
It was a panda shark. Yeah. There's tiger sharks, lion sharks, panda sharks,
and Luffy sharks.
No, those are called Lucy sharks.
I'm gonna love that arc when we get to it.
Yeah, in
there's
like 5 years.
There's going to be a platinum in there. 4 years.
So it's actually one of the brothers. He says, "Hey, you've got to come with us. We know exactly where he's going. We know exactly where Nami is going. You got to come with us." And so he goes, "Okay, let's go." And so as Luffy and the brother, he's the one in the green shirt.
Yosuke.
Okay.
Yosuke.
And so it was like, okay. It was like, okay, we're gonna go. And Sanji goes, yeah, you guys. I was like, listen, I've come to an agreement that nobody wants me here. I'm gonna go with you. Yeah.
And
so it then cuts
does like a 180.
To Luffy just packing a bunch of food in.
It's
Sanji
not enough
getting his
meat.
room ready to go. Like Sanji's little emergency
also, he
ship.
has like scars from like learning how to properly.
He then like sees the scars on his thumb as it like shows a little bit of characterization of like Sanji isn't that good of a cook, but he's been put into a lot of experiences in which he has to cook, and so he just learned by immersion.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zeff comes up to Luffy going, "Hey, do you want my logbook?" "No, I don't need it." "Nah, I thought as much."
And so he just stuffs it back in his pocket.
Do you know that he has tales of how to get through certain islands?
That they would have desperately.
That they would have needed. But Luffy always likes doing things on his own a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And so you will have both Sanji and Zeff basically reminiscing about their lives as they're all getting the boat ready.
Mm-hmm.
Sanji steps out onto the wing of the ship because, they can't really put it back because it's all cracked.
Yeah,
which they basically just stapled back together.
A port town to get that thing fixed.
And so
Zeff says, "Don't catch a cold."
No, he says the phrase, "Sanji, don't catch a cold." And there's a moment of silence as Sanji then starts tearing up.
Because this is the first time we've seen him call him by his first name.
Yeah. The audience now realizes, oh, they're calling each other by their names. As Sanji bows really low saying, "Owner Zeff, I have enjoyed working here."
Mm-hmm. It's really sweet.
as they're all just yelling, just leave, just leave already. As they're just
guys already.
crying. As
we haven't even left, and I miss these guys already. I wish we could have taken
Here's the thing, though.
us.
I honestly cried the first time I watched this scene, and I cried again when I read it in the manga.
This was the first chapter I ever read.
Very well done in 4 Kids. In the 4 Kids, this was very well done.
This was my introduction to One Piece, and I'm really glad I liked it. Like, this was a really good episode, and I'm really glad it was handled really well, because if any episode were to get a stone because of poor execution, this one was on the block for it. Measure up to 202, however I remember in the manga, and it did. It was a really good episode. It was executed really well.
But now let's actually go into the Nami teaser.
Okay, so episode 20.
Was it 20?
No, 19.
Wrong, 30.
No,
this episode's 20. What the heck was I talking about?
Oh, I was like, I forgot how to count.
No,
I was like beginning to...
Wasn't it? We just did episode 29.
So I have the wrong number. Episode 29, which has Nami looking all sad.
I wrote 20 on here, probably.
Nami...
One of us is wrong, and it's going to be corrected by us. When...
It has to be... Yeah. It's 29. Because that has to be episode 30. Because the next one is episode 31. I think that we both collectively lost our minds. And we, forgot how to count.
So, in the previous episode, we see Nami basically reminiscing, going, I hope they will accept me back into their crew after I'm done.
And then she gets
sad. And she starts really crying, going, I need to finish this job. Mm-hmm. As you then see in the following episode, her approaching Arlong Park, which is named after the person that controls it.
Which is the next arc we're going.
Arlong, the guy that she had
that Yosuke and whatever his name is, had the wanted poster for 20 million belly.
Yeah. So at this point, we still don't know, because I'm not spoiling it, why she's on this island or why she's going to it.
With the Miriam.
It's just the fact that she is heading there with the poster,
with all the treasure she's collected,
and she says, "I really need to finish this job." So we will find out in the next 5 episodes.
Because I don't know.
Like I said, there isn't that much to talk about in these 5 episodes. Yeah. There was one really good scene with Sanji and his great backstory, but everything else you could just condense in really quickly. Mm-hmm. You could effectively just take episodes 27, 28, 29 and compile them into one episode. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of padding. Yeah. And it feels like if I don't give these series of episodes gold, it will bite me.
Because you'll feel regret, because that will weigh poorly on the really good episodes.
I have to give episode 30 my platinum. And my reason for it is, it's such an emotional scene. There are other scenes that people go like, I really like this scene, or scenes that I cried in this, where it's like, I cannot turn down this episode.
It was a really good episode.
Because it was such an impactful moment for me. It's also, some of the earliest moments that we ever remember in the series.
Oh, yeah.
Was ironically this arc.
My first
this arc is boring, it's bad,
But we came in on the best part of the arc.
Yeah, but when you really look at the arc, it had really 2 good scenes, padding in the middle, and then they're off to the arc that defines this, the mini arc that defines this whole arc.
Is it a mini arc? It's like
no, it is an arc.
It's a mini arc.
No, it's a mini arc.
Yeah.
Sorry if that was really confusing to you.
The mini arc comes afterwards.
Mini arc.
The Baratier is a mini arc.
The Baratier mini arc followed up by the Arlong Park mini arc,
which is a defining moment of One Piece itself.
Yeah.
Like, people remember this arc that we're coming up to.
This arc has ramifications for later on to the series that travels so far down the line. They're talking about it in the current arc.
Yeah. Like
reasoning for characters.
That we just finished has tidbits of the Arlong Park arc, because there was a character who was influential. He's a mover and a shaker, and as Tekken 101, who I watched, described, he's a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's an equally big fish in that pond with him, and his name is Luffy.
Yeah.
Luffy is not a small fish. He's just a small fry at this stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's why I have to give this episode my platinum, but I have to say this entire arc was bad. It had 2 platinum-worthy scenes with a bunch of filler with a bunch of padding in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you could just condense the middle 3 episodes into like 1.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then put the Sanji resolution at the end of the second one.
Yeah.
You could have done that.
Yeah, but
condensing all 5 of these episodes into 3, maybe it could have been better.
If you had like an hour runtime to do it, though.
No, you totally could have. You could have took out everything involving Pearl. You could have taken out a lot of these scenes of just going, what's going on? Oh, he's still standing up. And it's like this padding of just like showing the 2 characters back and forth. It's like, you're stretching out these episodes for some reason. I don't know why. But
probably
maybe
because he
it was
thought
because
it was going to be a 5-year
it's episode 30. Mm-hmm. Episode 30 usually marks like where a break usually would happen. Either like 30 or 36, and I can't remember.
I don't think Oda was.
Do you think Arlong Park ends at 36? Maybe 39? 10 episodes for an arc?
I think it's 10 episodes for this arc.
Yeah.
I looked.
Because if it ends there, then it means that it was the end of, quote, a 3rd season that they had. Because each season is like either 26 episodes or a 13. Mm-hmm. And a double-length season is usually about like the 26, meaning that if you remember at the end of episode 13, they were just doing they were doing some filler episodes.
Oh, it was 13 again. 13 was in the middle of 13 was Gatling was when
I guess it was still
Kaya
in the middle.
was
which was the episode with where they meet the guy in the box?
In the manga, that's where this part was.
Oh, I know
the
that.
The guy in the box was episode. This is why you take notes, kid. Episode 18. Why you take paper notes. Because you can flip. But so we're looking at the Arlong Park arc, which will be a ride. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to enjoy it.
It's the defining moment. It's why people are actually kind of upset that right after that arc, it didn't immediately end. But they had to do something to close off the East Blue, which is why they go to Love Town. Yeah.
Which has
ramifications. Is, 1, a stop along the way, 2, the closest city to Reverse Mountain.
It's the port town into Reverse Mountain from the East Blue.
There's like a low town on
a historical port town.
We will get to its historic implications
after we get through Arlong Park. Like I'm just jonesing for Smoker.
Yeah.
Smoker's amazing.
Sanji's a smoker.
Yes, but he doesn't smoke quite as much as Smoker does.
Yeah.
He's a little.
What, two Cuban cigars in your mouth isn't enough smoke?
I don't know.
Okay, so this was a shorter episode, mostly because there isn't that much to talk about.
Yeah,
but
and it doesn't feel right if we stretch it out when we really have nothing else to talk about. Do
we
want
also
to
have
talk
to
about
go to bed,
Sanji?
actually.
Let's talk about Sanji, though.
Okay.
We talked about Usopp. Let's talk about Sanji. We did talk about Usopp, right? I think we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about Usopp. But so...
I love Sanji as a character. He is
so awesome.
There was a moment in which I actually made him as a D&D character.
You did.
Like, all of his powers up to the time skip.
As a campaign in D&D.
Yeah.
You made Shanks.
Yeah, I made Shanks as a character. I played Usopp as a character, and I made a character that was a lot like Frankie and a character that was a lot like Brooke.
I watched from the sidelines.
Using their powers and look.
It was pretty cool. What was the end of that campaign, by the way?
Didn't do that much. It didn't last that
long. Yeah, it lasted like 3
months? And you're thinking of something else. Okay. You're thinking of the other one.
Yeah. I think I am thinking of the other one. But, you know, Sanji really is a character who I think is the most consistent. He doesn't change that much.
No, he's a very level person that just sits in the middle ground of all of the wackiness that goes on.
He's the straight man.
And he's the straight man. Except for when there's a cute girl that shows up.
Then he becomes the punchline.
Or part of it, in which he becomes the punchline. In which everyone else, as the not straight man, is basically just falling around going, "What are you doing?"
Except for Luffy. Like
Luffy's idiocracy is both the punchline and the straight man to a lot of jokes. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't know that he's making a joke.
Yeah. What I really like about Sanji, though, is the fact that he's clearly had his shown in moments pre-series. And you can tell he's a character who's already had these really hard-hitting moments, and really the only thing he has left to learn about is friendship. I mean, he's already kind of had that lesson too with Zeff. So we get to see an adult on the ship taking care of everybody else, really. And Sanji is this wonderful addition to the Straw Hats. He's a really great cook. Luffy would have starved long ago without him.
He starves later on because he leaves for a tiny little bit.
Eat. He refuses to eat if it's not Sanji's food.
Another thing that we kind of brought up is the fact that Sanji and Zoro have this rivalry.
And it begins in the Baratie.
And really? I honestly feel that it's based on how they view women. Mm-hmm. Zoro has this complex in which he doesn't like fighting women because he values them as equals because of his backstory. Mm-hmm. Then you have Sanji, who is really into chasing women. He's not like some sort of like perverted character that's like...
Because he literally
where it's like,
will not
a woman,
fight a woman.
Oh, it's so great. No, he literally loves them so much.
He cannot
the visage of a woman,
he
can't harm them.
And we even see that becoming his detriment. Like,
yeah, way in Alabasta. It's in Alabasta.
Yeah,
he
just gets floored, and Nami is just like staring at him, like, "You're really not gonna hurt a woman, are you? That's going to be the death of you." And he's like already like drooling over Nami at that.
Like, I'm so happy you're concerned. It's like, what are you doing? Like, but it's those similar ideologies, but in such drastic differences.
I also think that they're like
that
brothers.
Makes them kind of butt heads. Almost like they know that the other person has the same view on the world, but take it so drastically that they're like, what are you doing?
I also think that they have a rivalry that no one else can really have with them. Because Luffy certainly can't have
Luffy has no rivals.
Zoro can't go up against Luffy. And you already kind of see it in the Baratie arc. You already see Luffy, like, stepping up to it, and Zoro conceding to it. Because Zoro was prepared just to leave Nami high and dry. But Luffy stepped in.
I will also
Zoro
say that
Sanji
is also the last character that doesn't look weird that gets added to the team.
Yeah.
Like, even Sanji's got, like, his eyebrows and, like, all that type of stuff. But you then have Chopper, who's a living animal. Have Frankie, who's a robot.
You have Brooke, who's Brooke.
Yeah.
Like, we're still fine.
You have Robin, who has a really weird freaking nose.
It's a cool nose. It's just anytime
so thin.
She uses her ability, it looks kind of wonky on her because she's so small and top heavy.
Yeah. But I kind of don't want to talk about future characters too much.
But Sanji, he balances out the crew in a way that we don't really get to see until he's absent from the crew for a bit.
In
like,
one of the current arc, he left the crew for a while. Kind of like what Nami is doing now, but for a completely different group. And a lot of people were like, oh, it kind of feels like the Orlando Park situation again. But it's like, no, not really.
But because it's more drastic. Yeah. Because everyone felt it when Sanji did. And that's
because, it hasn't happened in a while. Mm-hmm. But I think the idea is that Sanji, when he's not there, feels like a piece of the crew is missing. And that's what a good crew member should be. Which is why I always say, it feels really sad that I can say that Usopp could leave the crew and I would not feel anything. Because he's not that really...
Or Frankie.
Yeah.
Because Usopp
either of them could leave the crew and it would still feel the same. But just they would be missing.
Yeah.
Like, Zoro not being there, that's bad. Because there's no other sword users in the entire group. Technically.
Well, there is, but he's nowhere near.
Brook's not a swordsman, he's a fencer. It's different.
Like, the MVPs of this crew are Luffy, of course, he's the main character, Nami, Zoro, Sanji, and then Chopper and Robin.
Yeah.
Because without any of those characters, they would be up a creek, and their paddles would have been thrown in the eyes of whales by
and the only
Luffy
reason why Robin is
downstream.
Important is because, she's plot important. So.
Yeah. She's not really... If she was gone from the crew would not suffer.
Yeah, we're just talking about, future characters, though.
But it illustrates why Sanji is so important. Not only is he
the perfect middle ground between all of the characters. He's not one of the powerless characters, but he's
part of the monster trio, as they become called.
Yeah.
They're the monster trio.
He's not part of the, he is one of the big players on the team.
He always fights like the third.
At times, he's like the cook, and he's sometimes one of the people that are like, well, we should get his fight out of the way quickly so he doesn't bog up the final battle, And
so
there's
that
also
he can,
scenes...
run back to Nami and have an eye.
It also kind of feels like that there's scenes in which Sanji as a character is kind of just railroaded over, kind of like what happens with Luffy.
That
basically,
tends to happen in
we don't really know who to fight. I mean,
so this is give them a guy.
This is a bit spoilers, but in Water 7, while they're on the train to the next mini arc,
literally, they're on a train to a mini arc, basically.
They're walking down the train, and a guy comes up who's made out of pasta, and he's like, "I will take you out." As he pulls out his cooking knives, going, "I've never had the chance to use these. I might as well just cook you." And it's like, what? And it's like, at that moment, I'm like,
that's a wonky.
This is Sanji's one and only battle for the arc, isn't it? And it doesn't end up that way, but it kind of feels like it's like, oh, we should probably get Sanji's battle all the way quickly, so he has something to do.
But he always fights like
it's such a gimmick fight.
Guy.
It's such a gimmick fight, and it's the beginning fight, and so it feels like they're kind of like pushing him over to the side a little bit. He doesn't even get a fight. He doesn't really get that much of a fight in when they reach Sabrody. Not really. And he doesn't really do much in the time skip, and he doesn't really get that. He doesn't really everything between Water 7 and time skip doesn't really do much. And that really starts weighing on him, that it feels like, oh, we should have Luffy be the big battle. Oh, we gotta put a swordsman up against Zoro. We have to have the token woman bad guy pair up against Nami.
Because
Brooke
can't fight Sanji.
Brooke and Chopper need to have the weird power person. Who do we put up against Sanji?
This guy. Like that's like
some random low-level guy that has the same power as another person.
Well, not even low level. Like they're often powerful guys. Sometimes.
It feels like though that his battles are just taken on 2 episodes. He doesn't get a time to shine, which is why I say
I loved it when
battles with Sanji are not important. Sanji's main strength, and has been since episode 30, he is a really powerful character. Power, as in
the impact he leaves on people.
His impact is important, which is why it's actually kind of a really good metaphor to say that his arc in which he shows up has the strongest pirate in the world, and he is useless against someone that even has a little bit of technique. Because Sanji is a very technical character. He eventually gets a power in which he lights his foot on fire.
He lights up to the
He's got the skywalk ability in which he's able to just quickly just double jump in air, and he's very agile and mobile. And it's like, he's a very technical character. Unlike Zoro and Sanji, which is just basically, I will punch them really hard. Or
Luffy?
Yeah, Luffy. Or you have Brook and Usopp, who basically just takes them out in a comedic way.
And then you have Frankie.
You have Frankie,
who's like all power.
Yeah, but technique. He's the technician, and he's the technical. I used the word technical in 2 different ways, and so that's weird. Mm-hmm. He's the technology guy, in which he's got gadgets, which is also something that Usopp comes with. But it's so weird that Sanji is the perfect middle ground for all the characters, in which he is a good middle point.
And he's one of the glues that hold things together, really.
Yeah, he's a good counter to Chopper, because Chopper's got a Chopper and him both want to see people be well. They can't just stand by and have a character suffer. So they both are immediately on a person going like, how can we help you?
And
you have
if it's a
Sanji
woman, then
going with
push
the
feminine
feminine
out of the
characters.
Way to give food.
Like he has interesting dialogues with them. He doesn't have that much conversation with Frankie, but when he does, you really hear the fact that he's a very compassionate person, like Frankie is. Mm-hmm. You then have they're just really strong characters with Zoro, and you have the overwhelming sense of pride that comes with his character. He is the perfect middle ground character, and is why I like him on the crew. He's not too bombastic, he's not too outlandish, but he perfectly personifies the power system in this world, in which it just shows later on there's so many arcs that have every single person has a devil fruit, every single one of them has a weird power, and then Sanji comes up with, I just kick people really hard.
Yeah.
And that's it.
He doesn't use his hands.
That's his power.
Sanji's character moments, I find, are much better, or much more apt in the quieter moments of the series where he's just there. Sanji physically cannot let anyone starve on his watch. It is shown in this arc and in another arc. He physically will put himself in between people if it means saving someone from starvation.
And that's a good thing to take away from him.
It traumatized him so much as a child that he can't bear to watch anybody else go through the same fate.
If I were to sum up every character with a single word, I probably should have done this with when each character showed up. Mm-hmm. Sanji's is compassion. He is a very compassionate person. Mm-hmm. You have Luffy, who is stubborn. You have Zoro, which is determined. You have Nami, who's frugal. Now, the real word is that she is... I don't want to keep using the same, word, just like a synonym. So, I guess the real word that Usopp's is creative. He finds creative ways around situations.
Planner.
Yeah,
in various things.
She is planning. Mm-hmm. And it really is something when a lot of the crew members, don't feel like the same person.
Yeah.
Because
like you would
to kind of just dig in the fairy tale a little bit, because fairy tale is
I was talking about fairy tale with someone else today.
Fairy tale is famous for just taking moments
having a
from
huge ensemble cast.
Having a huge ensemble cast with really weird powers, really interesting characters, but they don't do anything with a lot of them.
Or they focus on the wrong characters at the wrong moments.
And it's why I have to say that fairy tale has a problem in which they never want a character to breathe. They never just leave a character out there and just have a sort of like moment. And the only one that they do are the female characters just to get them naked. And it feels terrible that it's like that I kind of look over the fairy tale and go, this is what would have happened to the series if Oda did not care about his characters.
Or if he didn't plan as much around them.
And you can go talking to what I was talking about. There are 3 characters shown off really early in the series that are all basically just the same character. You have the red-headed guy who has fire abilities. You have the black-haired guy who has ice abilities. You have the orange-haired guy. Turns out he's a lime, but he has the same kind of personality.
So is that
Leon?
Natsu,
whatever. It was Natsu, Gray, and then Leon, who turns out to actually.
I wish the series had been based around Gray. Gray is far more of an interesting character.
Yeah, but then again, ice characters rarely ever get the main character role, which is why in my series I made him the main character. It's just
in my series, it didn't. Well,
actually, I love ice-based characters.
I love ice, but he's not the main character, so it doesn't count.
Yeah. I just really like ice powers, which is why I find it so interesting that they end up always giving. In a lot of shonen manga, they have a moment in which the main team of people go out on their starting mission and they fight a person with ice powers. It happens a lot of the times. It happened in Fairy Tail, Naruto, One Piece. It happened in.
They do have an ice guy.
It happened in Bleach, kind of, but he wasn't really a main bad guy. He just had a fight. You oftentimes see this. We don't see the ice-using character until Water 7. And that is a master stroke. He's like, I kind of don't want to touch that until later.
Punk Hazard.
Not really. Because that was the same guy.
No.
Oh, you're talking about the ice harpy. The snow harpy, yeah.
Literally, she's a snow harpy.
Either way, like, I don't have much to say else. Like, Sanji is my favorite character, that's why I have to give this episode.
I think we've gushed about him a lot. I don't give it platinum. It's really good, but there's some transitional.
As you said, you can't decide whether or not these 2 are the platinum, so you're just giving it to neither of them.
Yeah. When I'm in doubt, I just don't give it. Because if there is doubt, it wasn't a platinum.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen a platinum.
So, my final thing, I'm giving it gold.
If we're talking about an average,
these series of episodes, I have to give it a gold, because it has a platinum moment.
Because the other episodes that aren't perhaps as good as the other ones curve down the average, but the episodes that are good, like the Zoro and Mihawk fight,
we're just talking about the 5 episodes here, though.
Yeah, I'm also talking about the whole arc as a whole because we are finishing with the arc, and the Sanji backstory, the Sanji saying goodbye to Zeff moments, bring up the average into gold. Because the scenes that are really good, and the scenes that aren't very good are really neat.
Yeah, I'm gonna start counting CVs when he actually gets back.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able. He would have come over today, but he had something come up. But.
Yeah.
He would have been able to give his opinion. I think he would have given it like a high silver because he was just really bored with these few episodes. Because, like I said, there's a lot of just padding. And he's already given his moment, and he said there was no topping that moment in the arc, so everything else just like drags down. So a mini arc. So weird.
Yeah, but. Next week, we will be starting the first 5 episodes of the Arlong Park arc.
Yeah.
I don't know which episodes those are. I remember seeing them. I know
there was
that
a
the
lot
first
of just
couple
meandering
episodes,
around town. I think
to
the
figure
4th
out where
episode
Nami
is Nami's full backstory, and then the 5th episode is the
Her
actual
backstory-
start of them fighting.
Actually, her backstory is in 2 parts.
Oh gosh. Oh, it's gonna end with Luffy kicking down the door, isn't it? Oh, that's a terrible place to stop.
Like, I can already see that scene
I am
in my
Luffy.
head.
Episode end. No, I need to speed up to next week.
Because I almost broke and watched the 5 episodes yesterday.
You could have, but it would have basically just ruined. But
yeah, it would have ruined my momentum.
I have a thing where I don't like watching something or uploading something until it's fully done.
Yeah.
It's why I didn't start recording this until the previous episode was fully done. Thank you for being so patient with me, Flash. I asked for far too many edits. The video was 5 gigabytes.
Poor thing.
I know.